All right. Here we go to the other side of the coin. Brown Excellence is back, as you can see. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, I'm breaking it seems like I'm going through puberty now, but I'm not. Something's just stuck on my throat. But got my main man Kamal here. Got also Vivek. Look at the boys. Look at Vivek. He looks like a gamer today. He's got the game show on. So boys, yeah, we've got the Brown Excellency. First of all, Kamal, how you doing?
Can't complain, man. It's been a rough couple of weeks for us, but we're gonna discuss it. We're gonna divulge. We're gonna get into it. But personal level, I can't complain. I'm great. Thank you for asking.
Brilliant. Some crazy stuff happening in America as well. So I hope everything's all right from that end.
Yeah, America's been crazy for a while, but that's never going to stop. Luckily, it's in DC and it's not where I am.
Absolutely. Vivek, my man, how you doing?
Hey, Mins, thank you. First of all, good day to all those tuned in today. Mins, thank you for asking. I've been on a small break, as you all know. Just for some personal reasons, I've been away for a while. I did watch Chelsea over my break. And I've been very thoroughly disappointed and angry at times too.
Thoroughly disappointed. I like that.
I've been thoroughly disappointed. There's no hiding this at all. Me and my dad, we watched all the games in December. Both of us were very disappointed because this is very, very true. And this is not us, saying, Frank Lampard out or whatever is, trending right now. It's just us saying the team is not good enough and there needs to be a response. Simple as that.
Absolutely, man. I mean, we'll talk about the whole Frank Lampard out and stuff. I really don't like talking about manager out, manager out. I want to more talk about the crux of the issues and what's going on, how they can improve, things that are concerning. And I want to focus on those sort of things because that gives a better picture of, what the situation's like and what needs to happen, as opposed to, I'm Frank Lampard out or I'm Frank Lampard in. Like, it doesn't make any, it's just stupidity, to be honest. But enough about that. We'll talk about that down the track. But I want to talk about, first of all, with you boys and try and get some sort of discussion going on is the whole thing about Timo Werner and Kai Havertz. Guys, you would have noticed in recent times that these two particular players, Kai Havertz, for other reasons as well, I suppose, with his illness and whatnot, but I think both of them, specifically Timo Werner, has been struggling so much in recent times with us. He's been playing out of position, our whole policy of crossing it in. Kai Havertz as well has been benched for the past few games. What I want to start off this conversation, I want to talk to Kamal here first up. What I want to ask you first of all, Kamal, is you would have watched Timo Werner and Kai Havertz to a certain degree last season in Bundesliga. I mean, what did you see from those two players and your sort of ideology of what are the strengths and weaknesses for these players and where are they best, positioned to play, like from your perspective, from what you saw in Bundesliga?
Yeah, so from what I saw, brief, as soon as we were kind of linked with Timo Werner and it kind of became official, that's when I started watching properly. I've always seen him in the past on Champions League games and stuff like that. He's always played with like a kind of focal point striker next to him and just off to the left of him. Because over there he had Poulsen, who's an incredible target man. He's great at what he does. So he was always to the left of him. But in terms of style of play, it was always like mostly transitions and like direct, quick passing, as opposed to the possession-based game that we're trying to do now. So he's kind of having to adapt to that. And on top of that, we discussed this multiple times. He's playing literally left wing. He's not playing as a left striker. He's playing left wing. So he's having to take on players, and he's never done that before. He's having to try and dribble past players. He's never done that. He's always just been, a through ball. He has a couple touches, and he's through and goal and is in. And he's not having to do as much as he is now in terms of defensive duty as well. So his adaptation to this league is brutal for him right now because he's having to defend, he's having to take on players, he's having to play in a position he's not comfortable with. On top of that, there's a lack of training, there's a lack of preseason, there's a lack of recuperation. So there's a lot of factors that are affecting him right now, and obviously confidence. As a striker, if you don't score a couple goals consecutively, you start questioning your entire game. And The Athletic put out an article the other day with Alan Shearer, and he kind of went into the whole Timo Werner thing, and he was like, everything he's doing is just confidence based. His touch is off, his movement's off. But to touch on to Havertz now, I would lie, I didn't watch him as much as I did Timo Werner, just because they weren't in the Champions League and they were only in Europa League at the time. But it seemed to me that Kai Havertz had like a free role. He kind of didn't really have much duty at that sense. So everything kind of went through him. So he was like a focal player for them.
He touched a lot of as you said, like he had the ball a lot for Bayer Leverkusen, which he kind of doesn't have for us.
Exactly, and so I know he's capable of playing at the 8. I'm sure he will adapt to it and play there eventually consistently as he's doing now. But he's kind of more of a second striker / 10. So I forget the name of the striker that they had with them, but he also had someone to supplement off when it comes to the build-up play and the 1-2s and stuff like that. So he could run into the box late. He could kind of create. So he and Timo Werner both had, it seems like a consistent, large type striker that to go and play alongside. So our system right now isn't focusing on their strengths. It's focusing on the system and that alone. So they're all being hampered by like the things I just mentioned, new systems, new positions and stuff like that. And it's tough because you can see they're talented. They're obviously talented. But it's specifically Timo Werner, because I think Kai Havertz is going to adapt quicker than Timo Werner will, just because of his age and stuff like that. But Timo scares me a little bit. I discussed this with some friends, and he does scare me just ever so slightly because he seems the kind of player that if he gets low on confidence, then it takes him a while to get back into it.
Nah, man, I think that's a very fair assessment. Now, having those thoughts about how they were deployed in the Bundesliga, which you've very nicely sort of elaborated on it, I want to go to now Vivek in the sense that what have we seen from your perspective on how we've used these two players? Just sort of tell us through from your perspective, because I want to then sort of bring the two worlds together.
Miss, I'm going to go with a two-way approach over here. Part of the blame has to be on Frank Lampard, and the other part on Timo Werner. Now, let me just start off by saying that the season is absolutely weird. It's nothing like I've ever seen before, because I've been watching football for a very, very long time. I've never seen so many fixtures played within a particular set of time, and this is not good for the players. This is not good for anybody whatsoever. And I understand the Premier League wants their broadcast money and whatnot, but this is not helping anybody out. And this is reasons beyond us, and we can't do anything about it, because that's how the world works anyways. Now, moving away from that, Miss, I'll give you a very interesting statistic about Timo Werner. So Timo Werner has played a total of 159 games for RB Leipzig, of which he's only played 11 games in left wing and right wing, 9 in left wing and 2 in right wing. Now, for Chelsea, the number is almost doubled, Miss. He's played a total of 16 games as a left winger. And
the other thing, just to include that, with Leipzig, I don't think they were completely left or right wing. I think they were more inside forwards.
Yes, they were inside forwards. And like Kamal mentioned, he played alongside Yusuf Poulsen. Okay, and Poulsen is a fantastic target man, supplying Werner with those through balls and those 1-2s. So that was there. 16 games for a natural striker on left wing is not at all good, Miss. And I will entirely have to disagree with Frank Lampard on this. And there were many times where he could have started Callum Hudson-Odoi, and he chose to stick with Werner. And even with those missed chances, Miss, he's been missing a bit. He's off form. And that's something that's up to Werner, and that's up to his mental determination. And mind you, Werner has always had the slumps in his career, but he's always found a way to come off. And personally, I'll be happy if he scores 20 goals this season and end the season here and move on to the next season and unlock his whole potential. And because that's how things work in the Premier League, and you can't get firing on season 1 unless you're Aguero or you're Aguero or Diego Costa or any other striker. Every striker has his own way to
adaptation time.
Adaptation time. So I'm never going to say that Werner is a flop or Werner is not doing good. I will again partly put the blame on Frank Lampard for playing him out of position for more than 16 games, for these many games, miss. This is not good enough. And this is something which Frank Lampard has to take the blame for himself. And I've noticed very recently, miss, he's been moving too wide. He's not even playing as an inside forward. He's going too wide.
He's hugging the line. He's literally hugging the line.
Yeah, he's hugging the line, and that's not helping Pulisic either. And Pulisic is playing right wing. Werner is playing left wing. Hudson-Odoi is on the bench. And Ziyech and Hudson-Odoi were injured for quite a bit of time. And that meant that Werner had to play a majority of those 16 games with no choice for himself. But it is very, very, very alarming, miss, and this has to stop. I cannot watch Timo Werner play on the left wing. It just cancels out everything he does, and this is not how he does. And I would like to remind you, miss, Aguero also played as a second striker during his Atletico Madrid days before he came into City to lead the line for them as a centre forward. Aguero is not a tall guy. He's not the strongest either. And his style of play is very similar to Werner, although they're not as fast as each other. Their style of play is very similar. They look they look to make those runs in between the lines, and Aguero on his prime was quite fast too, making those runs between the lines, linking up his forwards to his left or right. This is what Werner, I believe, has been bought to do, and I think he still has a lot of time to get into the groove, miss. Definitely not. But starting him at left wing is not doing him any favors, nor it's doing Frank Lampard any favors. This will not help him come out of his slump.
Just quickly in regards to Kai Havertz, are you sort of somewhat happy with how he's been utilized so far this season for us?
Kai Havertz, again, miss, is another player who's been versatile for his entire, youth career and all his time at Bayern Munich. Bayer Leverkusen. Beg your pardon. He's played right wing. He's played right mid. He's played as the second striker. He's played as the attacking mid. He's played as a central midfielder. He's played in over 5 to 6 different positions all throughout his career. Now at Chelsea is the time for him to, start getting into one position. And I know Havertz has said publicly that he would see himself as an 8 in the future, and I don't think the future is next year. For right now, I want to see Havertz play without any defensive duties, the additional burden of defensive duties, in a more free role in the attacking mid role, which I think is his best position right now. And this is what is going to give him the confidence, miss. And you saw the link up with Hudson-Odoi. Whenever he plays with Hudson-Odoi, he looks absolute class.
Even the link up with Tammy.
Yeah, even the link up with Tammy. Yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. All 3 players have been on the same wavelength. As much as I'd like to say this, Frank Lampard has not been starting Hudson-Odoi enough with Havertz, and he needs to. You get 2-3 players in the similar. You keep 2-3 players in those similar wavelength, and you're going to have a much more fluid attack. What's the point of playing players who don't sit on the same thought process as each other? These are all small things, miss. These matter on the pitch, and tactically, 100%. That's what's been very disappointing for me from Frank Lampard personally. I can understand Kai has been going through a lot, new country, new environment, COVID, and all that other stuff going on, and I really would like to see him start a lot more games in that 10 role, miss. That's what I want to see. And even if as an 8, I don't envision Kai as a number 8 anytime soon. And if he's going to be an 8, I think it'll take him another 2 to 3 years. But remember, miss, this kid is fantastic. He's one of the most versatile midfielders I've ever seen play. This kid can be an 8, but I don't think it's wise for Frank Lampard to play him as an 8 right now, where at a time in his career where he's still getting used to a new league, a much more competitive league. He's playing around teammates. He's playing around equally skilled teammates rather than being the star of the team where he was at Leverkusen. So he has a lot of work to do too, miss. And like I said, with Werner and Havertz and Frank Lampard, the responsibility has to be twofold. Werner and Havertz have a part of responsibility to play themselves into form, and that's something Frank Lampard cannot do. He cannot go and play for them on the pitch. They need to play themselves on form. And secondly, Frank Lampard needs to start both these players in their apt positions and make sure that they are getting into on form. So all that getting into form is entirely depend on both the player and the manager. I'll never shift the blame to one person or to the other person, saying that only Frank Lampard is at fault or only the players are at fault. It's always twofold miss. And once players and Frank start to understand this and make sure they accept individual responsibility, that's when we'll see a team building miss. Otherwise, if we are just going to go by saying, Lampard is at fault for all this, or, Havertz and Werner are at fault for all this, you're never going to see a team build miss. And this is 100% true.
Yeah, man. Now, well said from both of you guys. Now, I want to bring this whole two things together. I think from what I got from both of you guys is right now, these two particular players are not getting used properly. Yeah. From what Kamal has said, from what Vivek has said, it's quite evident that they are not getting utilized properly. Now, it sort of brings me to the question, were they actually Frank Lampard signings? Like, did Frank Lampard actually want these two players? Because it seems like Frank's trying to do something with these two players that actually don't fit what his plan is all about. So, and there's a really nice tweet that I just retweeted not that long ago. I'm not sure if you guys seen this, where it's a picture of Andres Villas-Boas and Frank Lampard saying that the players had nothing to do with his dismissal. The coach played his cards, it didn't work out, and perhaps this opportunity for him to manage Chelsea just came a bit too soon in his career. He's young. So I want to throw that back to you guys, because I feel like he's kind of going through the same sort of motion right now in the sense that, and I'll go to Kamal, do you sort of now ponder with the kind of gameplay that we've been playing, which is predominantly seems like going wide and whipping it in. Yeah, we do try to play through this middle every now and then, but it's not our most predominant factor. It's mostly through the wide areas and crossing it in. We've even seen when Werner was playing as a centre forward in the last match against Manchester City, we were still whipping in crosses for Pulisic and Timo Werner. When these two players are not known for their heading abilities, I don't know what they do in training. Maybe they do a lot of headers, and probably Zuma and Silva are probably not even marking them, just allowing them to just header it in. And these two probably think they're now really, really good headers of the ball. But the fact of the matter is, these guys are not. That's not their strength. Once again. And what Vivek has also mentioned, that in the sense of Kai Havertz playing as a number 8, which is what Frank's trying to do, the 4-3-3 with attacking 8s. As an attacking 8, it's not just, I think the word attacking, Kamal, throws people off, that all you do is just attack. Right. No defensive duty at all, because you're an attacking 8. But the thing is, there is a hell of a lot of defensive duty for an attacking 8, because, or else, as you saw, a player like Kante gets absolutely demolished against top teams as a lone DM, because he's got, how many players is he going to track? There's no way he can track the whole thing, right? He'll probably get away with it against the weaker teams, but there's no way he's going to get away with it against the bigger teams. So, Kamal, the question for you now, is this a valid notion to say that perhaps Werner and Kai Havertz weren't possibly Frank Lampard signings and they were actually club signings?
So let's start with Timo Werner. I want to say Timo Werner was absolutely a Frank Lampard signing. I'm going to defend him on that, just because reports came out in terms of how involved in the process he was. It seemed like he had practically kind of convinced Werner himself. Like, he and Petr Cech in those conversations, trying to say that, get him away from the Liverpool and be like, no, come to us. We're the team you want to join. Don't bother about Liverpool. Don't worry about Klopp. We can help you. It came out that Timo Werner was told, I don't want to say told by Frank Lampard, but it kind of seems that, they were going into the conversation how Timo Werner wanted to play in centrally. And Frank Lampard even said, I want to use him centrally too.
Yeah, now, post-match he said it in recent times.
Exactly. So now, tactics aside, you look at it now, we're not playing to that strength. However, to answer your question, it does seem that in my opinion anyway, that Timo Werner was 100% a Frank Lampard back signing. Kai Havertz now is a little bit difficult. I want to say he was probably yes too, but probably not as extensive as Timo Werner was, because circumstantially, you look at the time anyway, you look at the transfer market, and no team besides us could get Kai Havertz, right? That was the reported thing, that no team besides Chelsea could afford it. You know, everyone wanted him, but due to COVID, no one else could do it, and the transfer ban kind of played into effect. So I'm not sure if the board and Petr Cech were like, now is the time to get someone of this caliber. Let's just get him in, and you can figure it out. But again, Kai Havertz has come out and said that Frank Lampard was an important part of the piece. I think every player that joined this summer has mentioned Frank Lampard a lot in terms of his pulling power. And we, 3 months ago, we were all praising him on the TL, right? We were saying my manager's pull power is this and that. Yeah. So I do think Lampard had a major effect on both. I just think circumstantially how the season's gone, it kind of seems that, that the tactics aren't going how he wants, or he's got some things wrong. There's no doubt.
Let's talk about these tactics, Kamal, because it feels like I completely understand what you said in regards to how you think Timo Werner definitely is a Frank Lampard signings. He was looking for a striker. I think he was looking for Aubameyang, and then the club said that, well, he's a bit too old. Why don't you go for Timo Werner? Similar stylistically. And hence he's gone for that. Kai Havertz, as you said, we were only one in the market. He's a superb talent, can play in multiple sort of positions. I feel like Frank still hasn't really figured out how to utilize him properly. But going back to the tactics, because that's what you were sort of saying, right? When you have a player like Werner and you have a player like Kai Havertz, surely you would have done your homework as to how to get the best out of these two players. So then surely you then play to their strengths, and I think the team overall kind of also fits in with their strength as well. Only probably two players in the sense of, probably not even Tammy, to be honest, because I don't think his heading ability is the greatest. So I wouldn't even put Tammy in the bucket where you cross it in and it's the best style of play for Tammy. No. Giroud is probably the only one in our squad who has the best heading ability across everyone else. We feel like we have designed our game just for Giroud. I mean, help me make sense of all this, man, because I'm a bit...
Yeah, so to me, I see where you're going. I think Lampard sees the Klopp and Liverpool model and is like, that. I want that. Because you see Trent and Robertson like bombard down the flanks. And let's look at them. I know we've discussed this on the show, but in terms of Salah doesn't score that many headers, Mane doesn't, and Firmino doesn't. I mean, in terms of their goals, ratio compared to headers as opposed to feet, it's obviously feet's a lot more. So, and they cross the ball in, they're known for it, right? That's their biggest strength. So I think he wants to copy that model in a sense of just constant bombardment and maybe a ricochet and, the amount of balls into the box, someone has to take a risk and just knock it in. But those kind of guys, they're all kind of like strikers, and then our players, Ziyech isn't that kind of player. Werner's probably the only one who's that kind of player, whereas Pulisic likes to take people on and, kind of create something out of nothing. So I do think he's got players that, whilst on paper might suit the model, they're actual stylistically, he hasn't really got it correct. Because when we signed these players, in my head anyway, I was like, the 4-2-3-1 makes the most complete sense. On paper, anyway. Realistically, sometimes, most people tend to hate the pivot nowadays. They're always like, what pivot do we use? And it's a massive conversation. But in terms of on paper, you look at the team we have and you automatically, I don't know about you guys, but on me, it makes so much sense. Like 4-2-3-1, Kai Havertz as a 10, Timo Werner up front, Ziyech wide, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, makes sense to me as well.
But realistically, I think, he had played around with that for a little bit, and if I'm not mistaken, it did work in some games. That game where, I know, again, this is just...
I think it was Krasnodar. That was the second half where he...
So the opposition wasn't great, and he did against Barnsley too, where Kai Havertz had a hat-trick. And the link-up play between him and Tammy Abraham was phenomenal. Yeah. So you think, why don't you consistently try it against the top opposition? Just try it out and see what happens. So I do think he's got too much going on in his head. I think I hope he's not arrogant and stubborn in the sense that no, 4-3-3 is what we're doing. I hope because last season he did have that kind of change. He was like, okay, now we're going to go 3 at the back. So I'm not sure why he hasn't got a plan B this year, but tactically it does seem that he wants to copy the Liverpool model. It's just not working, and he has to tweak it a little bit, in my opinion.
Vivek, come back to you now. Obviously, we've now heard all the stories of Bundesliga, how we're doing, what we, in terms of his signings, how they're utilizing. We've sort of painted a picture for hopefully all the, the audience out there. First of all, thank you so much for everyone that's tuned in, tuned out throughout this session. Thank you for coming in. And please smash that like button while you're at it. And please drop in your comments, and we'll try and read out as many comments or even post into the stream as many as we can throughout the time. So thank you for that. But yeah, Vivek, coming back to you, man. We've heard all the different stories now. From your opinion, we're in a bit of a mess at the moment. So from here on, I think the next Premier League game is Fulham.
Yeah.
How do you want us to start setting up with Werner and Kai Havertz? That's the caveat, because I feel like we bought these players. We need to start, we have to utilize them. I mean, I feel like we need to utilize them, because Roman is not going to sit there in his back seat with all that money that he's splashed for these players, only to see them being benched, if that's the case. So that's the caveat that I want to have in this discussion, that how would you want to see moving forward, which is the Fulham game up next, and then I think Leicester and Wolves. How would you want to see perhaps we set up with Werner and Kai Havertz, in your opinion?
Okay, miss. I'll take 2 routes over here. If you're going with the 4-3-3, I wouldn't want to personally see Havertz play as the 8 over there. This is entirely my opinion. And I want, if you're going with the 4-3-3 in any of these games, I definitely want to see a target man striker, either Giroud or Abraham, with Pulisic or Hudson-Odoi, Ziyech flanking both these players, and the same backline with the midfield 3 of Kante, Gilmour, and Mason Mount. This is my opinion on who needs to start 4-3-3.
So 4-3-3. Sorry, how would you have Werner and Kai Havertz?
They won't start. Why should they
won't start? Right. But my caveat is that they have to start.
Yeah, I was coming.
The easy route is that they don't start. But I want to hear from you that how would you start them in a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, whatever the case is?
If you want to start Werner and Havertz, the best formation is the 4-2-3-1, miss.
Yeah.
Relieve Werner, put Werner in the middle, put Havertz behind him. And with Ziyech and Pulisic on both flanks, Hudson-Odoi, Ziyech or Pulisic on the flanks, James and Chilwell, Silva and Zuma. And the pivot here is going to be interesting. I want to see the 2 of these 3 over there, Kante, Mason or Gilmour. This will be 3 of these players will be in the pivot.
Who would be your plan A for the pivot? Because that's important. I know a lot of people have a very big love affair with Mason Mount, which is fine. He's a very good player. But when it comes to the crunch, we need to think deeply because that formation and that lineup with Werner and Kai Havertz makes sense to me, because I would utilize it, and Kamal just said that he would utilize it that way. I think the biggest issue becomes the pivot. So who would you choose a solid pivot to look after us with that much firepower going up front?
Okay, my pivot is very straightforward, miss. It will be Kante and Gilmour. My reasoning for this is very simple. Kante will be playing.
Mason Mount hater.
You know me, miss. I hardly hate Mason Mount. He's one of my favorite players.
I know. But you know how people are. As soon as you have Mount out of the squad, he hates Mount.
No, absolutely not. I love Mason Mount. And the thing is, miss, I'll give my reasoning behind Kante and Gilmour. Now, Gilmour is the only midfielder, the only midfielder in this particular team who has the passing range to pick out, players in the forward 3. This is no offense to Jorginho or Kovacic, and both of them cannot do this. Cannot play the role which Gilmour plays both in the development squads, in the under 23s, and in for Chelsea. He has the passing range which none of our midfielders have. No, Mason doesn't have that too. He doesn't have that passing range which Gilmour has, and that's where Kante comes in, and Kante is the ball-winning midfielder. He scrambles the opposition, wins the ball, feeds
interceptions,
interceptions, wins the ball, wins the duels, takes in those tackles along with Gilmour. And both these players need to sit deep. Gilmour is technically Gilmour can play as an 8 as well, and he's been playing predominant. He's played as an 8, he's played as a 6. But personally, I feel that Gilmour would be a much better 6, where he sits back.
And then you have Kai Havertz sort of dropping deep.
Yeah, absolutely. You have Havertz dropping deep, and that's the triangle you have there. So Gilmour, Kante, and Havertz, that sort of triangle you have over there. That's my midfield miss. Now, one disadvantage with this particular setup is we will miss the pressing of Mason Mount. And that's...
Very true.
That's something... and remember, it's a game of margins, miss. What should we give up to... What should we bring in? And no, I'm no tactical expert whatsoever.
It's so true, Vivek, that you've said. And I think this has been the issue with Frank Lampard, that he hasn't been able to decide what can I let go and what can I do. It feels like he goes, I want to do all of it. Like, I want to do everything. But then nothing really happens. Because lately, Vivek, our press hasn't been great either. Like, even with Mason Mount in the team, and I'll go to Kamal on this one. Against City, these guys press the daylights out of us. Like, and I know it's very, very bad to sort of compare between City and us because they're a far developed team, far mature team. But under Frank Lampard, we've been around for 1.5 years, and I've been saying it that you look at City, how nicely they move between the lines. Their defense, their midfield, and the forward pack all move together. Come on, they all shift together, all move together. Whereas with us, midfield goes, defense just stays back, and then there's all this space. And then sometimes the forward presses and the midfield doesn't press. So it's very easy to beat our press and then just go through the midfield. I feel like, why is this the case? Because I feel this is the fundamental. So this is going back to the point where Vivek was saying, either let go of something, so either don't press and just hang deep and play on the counter, allow the opposition to come at you and then try and nick the ball off them and counter, or press the living daylights out of them and just camp them there, play a high line, play a crazy sort of style of football, chaotic football. Either do one or the other. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't at the moment. I feel like Rick hasn't got the balance.
You're 100% right.
Sorry, Kamal. Just want to interrupt, Miss, and come back to that Liverpool model you're talking about. Their midfield three, all three of them press. Henderson, Keita, Chamberlain, Fabinho. You put anyone over there. All three are not, they're not creators. They don't,
they're all workhorses.
They absolutely work their socks off in all the games. That's what they do. Sorry, Kamal, to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
Yeah, so that workhorse three. That's where the pressing, is more successful. We don't have that workhorse three in our midfield three. We have one. Only Mason Mount. What's the point if only Mason Mount is doing the press and the other two don't?
No, 100% agree. Yeah, come on.
No, he's spot on. Yeah, Vivek's spot on because it's discipline too. So, you look at the guys we had against City and it's Mason Mount. Who do we start again? I forgot. It was Mason Mount, Pulisic, Timo Werner, Ziyech. And I'll get onto that Ziyech thing real quick. There's a clip going around. This is at the end of the game, don't get me wrong. It's towards the end of the game where they kind of counter and literally he and Kovacic are just walking. And they're just walking on the break. And to me, that is... Frank Lampard should cut that clip and blow it up on the screen and just be like, this is completely unacceptable. Yeah. Unacceptable. You play for Chelsea Football Club. I don't care if it's 3-0, 90th minute. No, you run until the end.
Why that happened, Kamal? I'm not really sure. It was Ziyech. Firstly, I just want to say I don't think he was fit, man. I really don't think he was fit. And that also then poses the question: why did Frank start him? Why are you starting an unfit player when you've got Callum Hudson-Odoi who was lighting it up? Like, as much as it was so great for all of us to see Ziyech start, but it looked like he wasn't fit.
No, exactly, you're right. And, hindsight is a great thing because, like you said, it looked like he wasn't fit. And he was playing, I think he was just playing them because they're experienced or, going against top-tier opposition. And, Ziyech has that Champions League experience. Who knows? But, it doesn't work. To answer your question about pressing, it seems to me it's like a lack of discipline. It's just guys have no idea when to press, who to press, how to move as a unit. Because like you said, the front line goes and there's a massive space. Like that last goal, it was just Kante on an island against nobody. And we've seen it before. It's not the first time. We've seen it 2 or 3 times now where he's just left exposed because everyone's just up. And I know we were chasing the game, but at the same time, it's not acceptable. So to me, it's just discipline. And like Vivek nailed it. Workhorses. You have 3 destroyers in that team where it's just non-stop, boom, boom, 90 minutes, just run. And we don't have that. We've got Mason Mount and Kante who are probably capable. But, you look at the other players in the squad, Pulisic's not good. I mean, we all love Pulisic, but that's not his game. His game is to attack and create something out of nothing. Timo Werner's not that. He's a striker. And then Ziyech has like a time where he's an attitude thing with Ziyech. I think he goes through moments where he's like, now I'm going to press, now I'm not. Today I'm up for it, today I'm not. He's kind of got that arrogance about him where, he wants to do it, it kind of doesn't. Like, I don't hate to compare Eden Hazard, but they pick and choose when they want to. And I know we're going to get onto him, but Kovacic too is like, as of late, he's been off it too. So the whole squad as a whole, it's an entire unit that the pressing has just been off. And statistics have shown that Chelsea's pressing compared to last year is way off. Yeah. So adaptability, lack of time, rest is an important thing for footballers. So it could be a lot of factors going into it that we don't know behind the scenes.
Yeah, man. Look, 100%, man. It's so well said that last year's pressing compared to this year's pressing is nowhere near. And, there's only that much excuses we can provide. Like in the beginning, we were saying there's no preseason, new players gelling. We're almost halfway in the season. Honestly, I can't use these excuses anymore. Like I feel like they're getting enough time in training sessions to get this right or to improve. I'm not saying have a polished press or have a polished, way of moving the lines. No, but have some sort of improvement game by game. In the month of December and now into January, it's declining every game, which is the scary part. So, guys, I'll wrap this up. I think just for food for thought for everyone, I suppose, with Timo Werner and Kai Havertz, guys, put it down in the comments later down the track, whoever watches this down the track, what you think about Werner and Kai Havertz. Do you think they're Frank Lampard signings? If they are, do you agree with how they're getting used? Please comment below. It'd be great to have an interaction with every one of you guys. Great to see a whole heap of comments that's been flying in this live chat, which is great. So keep them coming. Now, I want to talk about Mateo Kovacic. Now, I know my main man, Vivek, has some sweet words for Mateo Kovacic. But, guys, on a serious note, though, look, I'm not going to deny the fact that he hasn't been great in recent time. I can't deny it. Yeah, against Arsenal, he got hooked off. He was poor. Against City, poor. In fact, against City, I felt like he downed tools. I think he was, for me, it felt like this is the first player that probably doesn't believe in Frank Lampard's philosophy or strategy anymore, and he just down tools. I actually tweeted that out because the way I saw Kovacic play, he was getting bullied, he was getting pushed over. Ball, it was literally like a grown-up kid just snatching the candy off a little kid. It was like that. Do you know what I mean? There was no drive from him either. But what I've seen in recent times in social media, guys, is a lot of disrespect on this particular player, to the sense that a lot of them are saying that he's downright crap, like he's not a good player at all. Which, this guy was just player of the season for Chelsea last season. Like, you can't just go from player of the season to be a crap player this season, which, it baffles me, to be honest. So I'll go to Vivek this time. Vivek, I know you've got reservations for this player, but on a serious note, though, do you think this guy is actually a bad player, or is he someone that kind of doesn't suit what Frank really wants from that position? Because generally he's been playing the right side of the attacking eight in the 4-3-3. It doesn't really give us goals, hasn't really given us assists. Defensively, I don't know how great he is. So as an attacking eight, I don't even think he's an attacking eight. I've said this plenty of times, man, before the season started, that two players in this 4-3-3 will get done is Jorginho and Kovacic, because it does not suit their style. For me, Kovacic is a double pivot player, like a deep lying playmaker alongside maybe a Matic or maybe, I don't know, a Declan Rice, or not even Kante, to be honest, because we saw Kante likes to bomb up and run around everywhere, and that leaves a hole. You genuinely need someone to sit deep and just defend, and then Kovacic does his thing. So from your point of view, man, your thoughts about Kovacic in recent times?
Okay, Miss. Before I go on about Kovacic, I'd just like to point out one comment I was reading right now from Akshay. Akshay was saying that we lack the solid physical DMs in our squad, which is 100% true. And when Frank Lampard played, he played with bloody Essien and Makaleli. My word, I've never
don't even compare that time with this time. It's a joke.
I've never seen two, absolute physical freaks in my time. Like brilliant. I'd call them freaks because that's a massive compliment to them. Like when I see Essien play, my word, bombing down the pitch for 90 minutes, up and down, no rest whatsoever. That guy was a physical specimen, Miss.
Yeah.
Now the problem is we don't have that in our team. Kante is not a physical specimen whatsoever. Kovacic is not that. Mason Mount is not that. Jorginho is not that. And
very true.
We miss out one
None
over
of
there.
them are like monsters. None of them are monsters.
They're not monsters. They're not monsters. They're not built that way. And this again comes down to Kovacic once again, Miss. I feel personally Kovacic will do much, much better when he's paired with a very physical holding player over there. Someone like Partey. Salman mentions that Chelsea wanted Partey. And he would have played with someone, he would have been phenomenal with someone like Partey because Partey does the job for Kovacic. And Kovacic got bullied. I was pretty surprised. He got bullied versus Arsenal. He got bullied versus City. And it was not a good sign for the players. And I think it comes down to, again, like I said, two factors. One, this weird season, no rest, no time to train, and this again leads to players losing form all of a sudden. Kovacic is not shit by any margin. He's just another player in our team who's out of form, needs to find form, and that's the simple reason. And to answer your question regarding whether he's down tools with Frank Lampard, I think I'll have to say yes, Miss. Partly due to the reason being that when I saw the City game, I was like, wow, this guy is just, not doing anything.
He was just poor, like, there's poor and then there's
abysmal.
Really poor.
It was abysmal. That was abysmal. I went ahead and said all three, Kante, Mason, and Kovacic were absolutely poor, and these three together lost us that game because City's midfield, Rodri, Gundogan, and De Bruyne, my word, they absolutely outclassed us. Yeah, they outclassed us by a large margin, and we had nobody. And it's not like Rodri, Gundogan, and De Bruyne are physical specimens whatsoever. They were working so hard, Miss. They were working for the manager. They were working
smart,
for the
man. Just smart.
Absolutely.
Very smart.
I've never seen Gundogan pull off this particular performance this season, and it felt like he saved this for Chelsea. And Gundogan pressed. He kept Kovacic out of there. De Bruyne was keeping Kante out of there. And, on the other side, Rodri was just winning all these 50-50 duels, which our midfield couldn't win. And again, put Kovacic in no man's land so many times. He put Zuma and Silva in no man's land so many times. Azpilicueta was, single-handedly
the whole thing about moving the lines. He just goes up and then the defense is like, what are you doing, man?
Azpilicueta was 2v1 so many times with Zinchenko and
Foden,
Sterling.
and Foden as well.
And Foden as well. My word, that is not a good sign, Miss. Going 2v1 with Zinchenko and Foden, that's not a good sign at all. Kovacic was nowhere to be found over there. He is not a bad player by any margin, Miss. And I'd like to say this, before I conclude. He's not a bad player by any margin. He's out of form. He needs some game time, to get back into form. He needs to be put into a role, and And sadly for me, Kovacic does not fit in this midfield, which I was talking about. Kante, Gilmore, and
Exactly.
Havertz. And yeah, I'll go ahead and say this on live. Kante was absolute wank too. He was horrible, and he was horrible for the last 3 or 4 games too. And if any player needs a bit of rest right now, I think it would be Kante too. So all these players are
he's suspended for the next one as well. So good rest for him.
Yeah, all these players are going through this phase where they're all worked out, exhausted, and Frank has again been using Mason to the end of the world, and that's not a good sign for Mason. He's been a little bit down too. It's like I said, Miss, at the start of the show, it's always 2 ways. It's never one.
Absolutely.
It's never one way in a team. If the team is not doing well, it's the responsibility of both the players and the managers. It's never Frank Lampard's fault, or it's never the player's fault. You're not doing well. No. It's simple. It's the fault of both these sets of individuals, and it's up to the team to find their way through. And you've been reading the reports, both Kamal and you've been reading all the reports circulating in social media, and and we'll have to admit that Frank Lampard is hanging on a very thin line right now. And if results don't come our way, we all know what happens next. So, and I'll not go ahead and speculate over there. But again, the team has a lot of work to do, Miss. A lot of work.
No, for sure, man. Kamal, it's a good point, because what Vivek was saying in regards to, at the end of the day, Frank's the one who's choosing this, right? Frank's putting these players in this situation and putting these players in this formation. And going back to what I said initially, Kamal, in the sense that Frank Lampard himself said this about Andres Villas-Boas, is that, he played his cards and it didn't work out. And, maybe this was too early for him. I feel like, once again, I have to reiterate this, that Kamal, he seems to be playing, Kovacic in a 4-3-3. I don't think it's ever his position. And a lot of people are going to say, but he played that for Sarri. Sarri played 4-3-3 and Kovacic. But Sarri's 4-3-3 is not the same as Frank Lampard's 4-3-3. Frank Lampard's 4-3-3 is those attacking eights have got to score, assist, and got up and down, whereas Sarri's one was a lot more verticality, passing, and they all move together, and they all they come back together, they move together, and it's a lot of patience build up, right? Whereas Frank Lampard is not patience. Get it in there and get it quick, create opportunities to score goals, right? And I don't think that's Kovacic's game. So the question for you, obviously we've got Vivek's point of view, is Frank has to take some of this blame as well, right? Kamal, like you're using Kovacic in a position that is not suited for him. What do you expect him to do? Right,
as in the same applies to so many players in the squad, right? So it's like we discussed, like just earlier. It's like Timo Werner is not a winner. Kai Havertz is capable as an 8, but it's not what he's best at. It's multiple players in the squad, and they're vital players. They're important players. For Kovacic, I will say this: it's like I don't have as strong an opinion of him as the others do. I do think he's a good player, but it's like you ask yourself, what is Kovacic good at? And it's basically, I don't mean to sound this as disrespect, but it's like, besides dribbling and breaking the lines, I don't really know what his best traits are. He doesn't really have that final ball. He can't shoot to save his life. His tackling is sometimes good, sometimes bad. His pressing is okay. But, I mean, that's it. Don't get me wrong. He's a decent player, because obviously you don't go to play for Inter Milan and Real Madrid for being a rubbish player, okay? So he's an okay player, but it's like you're waiting. I feel like with Kovacic, you're always waiting for him to take that next step. You're always waiting for something, and he just doesn't do it. But what you said was perfect, because he suits a pivot. So he suits where he can receive the ball deep, break the lines, and give it off to someone to do the rest. So as an attacking 8, he's doing something that he's not good at per se, as in he's not really good at being creative or finding the final pass. For sure, he can do it every now and again, but consistently, that's just not what he's about. He's good at winning the ball, dribbling past, like I just said, and handing it off to someone else to take care of the business. So, yeah, you're right in the sense that Lampard has to figure out what to do, but also at the same time, I'll ask you this: what other choice does Lampard have? As an attacking 8, besides Havertz, who's he got? No one.
No one.
Jorginho.
And that baffles me, Kamal, that he let go of Barkley and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Like, surely.
The Ruben one, I understand, strictly because of fitness. But when I saw Barkley and Ruben go out, I was like, oh, the numbers kind of don't make sense now. It's kind of like, what are you doing in case someone gets hurt? You know, if Kovacic goes down, now we are absolutely screwed again because we're not playing Jorginho as an 8, Kante as an 8. We're not doing it.
Jorginho as an 8.
Exactly. Let's think about it. Just think about it for 2 seconds. And then you're playing Kai Havertz and Mount every game, so you're burning everyone out. So it's why he did it. I don't know. For both, anyway. I understood one or the other, but both just really didn't make sense. I'm hoping we can kind of recall Conor Gallagher because he's having a great season at West Brom. And he seems like an ideal player for that.
I don't think Conor Gallagher is a goal scorer or an assist maker. I think he's a workhorse. But
right.
Yeah, it goes back to what Vivek said. If we want a workhorse, sort of like Liverpool model, perfect.
So he doesn't have to do all that. He probably, you know, like Kovacic, he's probably got, I mean, statistically anyway, he's won more tackles, he's got more key passes and stuff like that. And if you're playing like Havertz next to him, then you don't really need to expect him to score those goals. But yeah, I mean, I like Kovacic, but like I said, it's kind of, you're always waiting for the next thing, but it just never happens. So he's a nice player, but what is he best at? He's good at small things, but nothing. He doesn't seem like a complete package, even though he's like 25, 26. So. True. Yeah, he's off form. But I don't think he doesn't like Lampard, like you guys think. I think he's okay with him because Lampard last year even said that, you know, Kovacic is kind of someone he wants to work with day in, day out, and hopefully bring his game to the next level. But clearly, that's not working.
I just the reason why I said this, Kamal, is because Lampard's hooked him halftime a few times.
Yeah, I feel like sorry, did the same thing. 60th minute.
I just feel like players really take, you know, they really look into this deep. They get hurt when they're hooked off at halftime because you know, it's the whole world is watching you and you've been hooked off at halftime, and when the score's like 3-0 or 2-0 or whatever the case is.
Yeah, and you guys remember that. And you guys remember that those dreadful 3 words during Sari's season: Barkley for Kovacic.
Just a minute, guaranteed.
Exactly, boys. It's good. We've covered the both 2 main topics that we wanted to. We've got the whole perception. Let's take some questions from the fans for the last 10 minutes before we wrap things up. First up, and let's try and be snappy as much as we can with this because these questions are quite, they could be quite in-depth. First one is from Salafia. First of all, guys, before we take any further questions, just please keep smashing those questions in. But we've got about 17, 18 now. There was about 22 at one stage. Please smash that like button, get those likes up. Helps the channel out a lot, helps us out a lot as well. And check out all of their information in the description and follow these guys, which I'll talk about at the end anyway. But let's tackle some of these questions. First of all, Salafia _M7. What's your best main 11 and formation for the rest of the season? I think rest of the season will be difficult. Let's just talk about over the next 3 games. I think Fulham, Leicester, Wolves are big games for Frank. I think Frank drops any points in any of these games, you know, it doesn't have to lose, or even if he draws against any one of them, I think he's finished. So I'll go with Kamal first up, man. From here on, for the next 3 matches, what consistent 11 that you'd want to see? I'll go with you, and I'll go with Vivek.
Okay, yeah, I think he just needs to change it because it's not working, right? So change it, see what happens. Change at halftime if it doesn't. So, like we've all discussed in the show so far, 4-2-3-1. I go with a Gilmore and Kante pivot, just like Vivek said. Havertz is the 10. I hate to drop Mount because I love him, but Pulisic and then Cho. I want Cho to start because he's been phenomenal the last couple of games. And I hate to say it, but I dropped Timo Werner and I played Tammy Abraham. So that's what I would do.
So your back 5 will be obviously just like all of us, maybe Rich James and all of that. So that's no change. Double pivot of Billy, Kante, and up front you've got Cho, Pulisic, and Tammy.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough. Vivek, your 11 for the upcoming 3 big Frank Lampard saving career matches.
Yeah, obviously, for Morecambe, I think we'll see a lot of rotation, so I'm not entirely sure.
Don't worry about Morecambe. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
Okay, coming to Fulham, it'll be Chilwell, Zuma, Silva, and James. Hopefully, Reece James is fit because Azpilicueta is not it anymore, and he cannot keep up with the pace of the rest of the squad. For my pivot, I'll be going with Kante and Gilmore, and Havertz will play in front of them in a free role, not exactly as a 10, he'll be playing in a free role in the middle, operating behind Tammy Abraham, and for me on the flank it'll be Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi. Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic will be interchanging wings. And that's my best 11 for now. And this is purely picking players based on form. Nothing on Werner, nothing on Ziyech, but I think they need to, work their way up into the team.
No, fair point, man. Fair point. Let's look at the next question. To be honest, even Frank Lampard doesn't know his best 11. Okay, that's not a question. Okay, here we go. We've got a question from Decla Red. I've been getting second stint of Mourinho's season. Do the guys think players are downing tools? Let's go with Kamal. Are players downing tools?
No, I don't think so. I think, to answer Decla's question, it's like, no, absolutely don't, because the players have just come in. So this is Frank Lampard's first proper season, if we're being honest, right? All of them have said that they wanted to come play for him. He was a vital cog in the reason they came to join the club. I don't believe reports that Kai Havertz might be upset. No, I think they fully back the guy.
Vivek from Declared, what do you think, man? Players downing tools yet?
Hey, Declared, that's a great question, but I don't think the players are downing tools. Not right now, but I don't think they will. I don't think they will too. You have to remember that Mourinho's second stint was an incredible. It was horrible.
That was horrible.
Yeah. And
we're not there yet.
No, we're absolutely not there yet. You have to remember that there were so many reasons behind Mourinho's second season. That's the third season of his second stint. There were a lot of different things going on. Like for him, for example, calling the team's doctor Eva Carneo, publicly abusing her on the pitch, downing tools, the media not doing well. There's so many different things. But I definitely don't think the players are downing tools. The last time I think somebody downed tools was during the Conte era. I don't think they even downed tools with Sarri, to be honest.
I don't think anyone downed tools against Sarri. I really don't think so. I think a lot of them probably wanted him to stay.
But
that's a separate story. That's a separate story. People get very touchy about that. We're not going to get into that. People get very touchy about that.
Yeah, but to answer your question one more time, I don't think they'll be downing tools. I think the players are behind Frank Lampard. Tammy Abraham recently came and talked on the official website about how players are missing training sessions together, how they're not, playing enough together. These are all, valid points which we need to take, under Frank Lampard's management too. But yeah, I understand your sentiment, but no, they're not downing tools.
Fair enough. We've got next to, I think Salman has got Odoi or Pulisic. I think it could be linked with this one for Akshay. Let's take this as a final question. Hudson-Odoi, Pulisic, Ziyech, which two will you start? I think the boys have already... I'll answer this for the boys. I think the boys have answered this. Both Kamal and Vivek are going with form at the moment. So they would go with Odoi and Pulisic and not Ziyech. For me, the thing is, boys, I'll give an alternative answer. Let's mix things up, right? I'll give an alternative answer. My thing would be is I'd probably actually go with Ziyech and Hudson-Odoi. Hudson-Odoi because of his form, obviously. And the reason why I would go with Ziyech is he gives this X factor like none other. I know Pulisic also has an X factor, but lately what I've seen, and I want to actually have this episode separately, probably another time. And obviously, Vivek brought a really good point about Kante as well. So all of these are probably episodes. The thing I really want to point out about Pulisic, and whether you agree or not, that's a different story as well, is sometimes his dribbling, I feel like it doesn't have an end product. Like he just dribbles, and then there's players moving, and he does not let that pass go. He does not. I find it very strange that a player like Pulisic, who can beat so many players, doesn't have more assists. Like I feel like his game needs to have more assists and find those runs off Werner or Tammy Abraham or whoever else, because he goes through and he opens up the whole game, but then that passing range is not there from Pulisic, and I feel like. It may look so great in TV that he's going through so many players, and oh my God, he's the only one that's trying to do something. But at the end of the day, the production, it all has to culminate to something. You know what I mean? And this is
he's a head down runner.
He's a head down runner. Like he's not looking up just for a pause. I mean, look, I know people are going to bring out footage and say, "Oh, here's an assist from Pulisic." Of course he's had it, but I'm talking about in a more consistent manner, Nini recently, after the City match, he was the only one that actually said that Pulisic, in his opinion, wasn't great, and he copped it. He copped it so hard in social media, it's not even funny. Every other YouTuber out there had said that Pulisic was fantastic. Nini was the only one, and I kind of understood his point of view. What he was trying to say is that the reason why he said he was poor is because the dribbling led to nothing. When your dribble leads to nothing, then what's the point of all the dribble? Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, and we hold Pulisic to a high standard as well. That's why. So we hold Pulisic to a high standard, being our supposed best player from last year too. So we know what he's capable of. So when he doesn't give like a solid something, we're like, he wasn't good enough. So he's slowly becoming the heads and adult of this era. Sorry.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
Yeah. And and adding on to Eden Hazard, today is his 30th birthday. Happy birthday! Salute you,
Happy birthday, Eden.
Yeah. And Miss, I've seen Eden come to Chelsea and go all the way out. And one thing I've noticed with Eden, whenever he dribbles, he keeps his head up and he always looks for that pass. That's Eden Hazard. You see,
on his last season before he left, what was it? 17 goals, 17 assists.
Yeah, something stupid. Yeah,
insane.
Something insane. Yeah, no, it would be disrespectful. No, I'm sorry. Disrespectful is not the word. It would be unfair to put Hudson-Odoi or Pulisic on the same plane as Eden Hazard right now and ask them to do what he did for Chelsea. But one thing I see with Callum is that Callum puts his heads up and looks for the pass. He makes it, and Pulisic does not do that. And it's okay to call that out. Pulisic is a fantastic dribbler, miss, but he does not play that ball out of his feet. And that's, again, something which he needs to work on. And that's constructive criticism for me in that sense. And I'd agree with you too, miss. Like with you saying that Ziyech and Hudson-Odoi should be starting too. That's a good point too. And it's not like Pulisic is in the best form either. And the problem is, out of our three wingers, only Hudson-Odoi is on the best form right now. And any best team for me right now, any best starting 11 for Chelsea right now has to have Hudson-Odoi in that team. And that's a no-brainer for me.
100%. Well said, everyone, man. Honestly, just quickly about the Hudson-Odoi point, once again, I think that could be another show in itself, is that I feel like he's more of a creator as opposed to a goal scorer. I know he scores goals as well. I feel like he's got the eye and the vision to be providing assists. And that's a very important trait to have as a winger. I feel like, yes, you need to score, but you need to be able to assist as well when you can, because assist is just as good as a goal, man. That's like, you're fixing someone up for a goal. So now, boys, what an absolute brilliant session that we've had. We've talked about so many things. I see a lot of happy faces from Kamal and Vivek. I'm really excited. I'm really happy. Guys, thank you so much for joining. For every one of you guys that have been tuning in, tuning out. Once again, please, I can't reiterate enough. Smash that like button. Helps the channel out a lot. We've got the Brown Excellence here once every week. We're going to be back again next week, talk about many different things. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you always tune in. 2:30 Sydney time. I don't know all the other times, and just make it out, man. Go from 2:30 p.m. Sydney time and then figure it out. But boys, thank you heaps for joining, and I shall see you all of you guys again soon. Until next time, see ya.
See ya.